Welcome, everybody. We got the whole HACK&Co team here, a team of realtors talking about what's going on in our market because you know what? Real estate has not been as interesting over the last few years as it is now. The real estate market has not been the same way. And in fact, the world's attention is on real estate as we see things in the news. We're seeing some things like, are we going through the Great Canadian CoolDown is a big trending news story right now. And now that we have an election announced, coming through COVID, hearing of all the different potentials of this pandemic, it's really a question of what's this fall market going to be like. And we're going to get some indications as to what's normal right now in talking about what's been going on in July. Everybody's had some really interesting experiences this year. I know that there's been a few people standing in lineups waiting to show properties in those desirable neighborhoods. Who here has been in a lineup waiting to show property this year? That's something I've never seen happen before. Who here has been in a multiple offer situation representing a buyer? Yeah, who here has been in multiple offers representing a seller? See, we got lots of things going on in real estate that aren't necessarily normal for the area, and we want to talk you through it because the stats that are released each month from the Realtors Association of Edmonton are probably a little dry. They're probably not everything that you would want. So let's kind of kick it off here. When you see indications that our market is shifting, so coming through one of those hottest periods in Edmonton, like recent history, what do you think was like the biggest indicator that you guys saw in the market, in the statistics package coming out in July?
I would say average sale price was really interesting to see this month over last month, the last 12-month trend. Average sale price is basically the market's appetite. And so just to put things into perspective, at this time last year, the average single family home was $436,000. And last month it was at $472,000. So up, quite a bit from the last year. And this month it's down about $8,000. So we're sitting at $466,000 for the average single family home. We could say that's the market's appetite.
That, Tony, because with that, like watching these statistics, we've been watching them rise, right? And Yep. Here we are back where we were 2 months ago.
That's correct. So last month was super hot, right? We haven't seen single family detached average at 472 in quite a while. And so when we're looking across the other types of properties like condos, they're just down about $2,000 from the month before, but sitting pretty strong compared to what we saw last year. Duplexes and row houses are the only type of property that's actually up a little bit compared to everything else. And total residential is down about $10,000 from the month before and about up $20,000 from this time last year. So we are seeing it still pretty strong compared to last year. But it's interesting to see how strong it was last month compared to this month.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I kind of noticed is that it seems like there's a lot of action around those duplexes right now. There's a lot of people that are finding that very appealing, and maybe that's a sign our market's moving up. Because 2 months ago was a pretty big achievement for the Greater Edmonton area where for total residential, we broke $400,000. Right? Like that's pretty awesome overall. Was there any other notes that you saw on how prices are moving or experiences that maybe you had out in the marketplace?
Yeah, it's interesting to see that, although there's certain parts of the market that are super hot, not every seller is experiencing multiple offers and a lot of buyers now are feeling like they might have more options compared to just a couple months ago.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting when you take a look at like how the market has been moving in sale price, that distance that you were talking about. Let's say that the average property in the Greater Edmonton area is right around that 400 mark, right? And then we take a look at the average price is like, or the distance between list price and sale price. We had some neighborhoods that were actually trending at 100% of list price over a period of time, and now they're negotiating a little bit. We see them like kind of come a couple of percent off. We're not seeing as many multiple offers. We're not seeing multiple offers being as high over list price right now. That's interesting. Where else is that showing up in the statistics? Like, why do you think there's such a change?
I definitely think it has something to do with months of inventory. So, just to kind of explain that a little bit, it's basically how long it would take to clear out the current inventory if, we didn't have anything new come to the market and the market kept doing what it was doing this last month. And right now we are, for the first time in a long time, at what we call a balanced market. So 3.5 months of inventory is right around that balance mark. And in June, we were down at 2.9, May at 2.7. So July, we were actually at 3.6 months of inventory, which, is right on that balanced mark. So, essentially, even compared to last month, buyers right now have like 30% more options out there. So, there's definitely a little more confidence as a buyer going into a negotiation. So that could definitely lead into why we're seeing a slightly reduced, average sale price, because they're not willing to pay that premium as much anymore when there is more out there for them to choose from.
Let's take a look at that as like a trend. How have you been seeing months of inventory and like that balance between buyers and sellers?
It's definitely been leaning in the seller's favor throughout, the majority of 2021. This time last year in July of 2020, we were actually at 3.7. So we're pretty consistent with where we were at this time last year. But, as far as 2021 goes, this is definitely the probably the best buyer experience month to date so far this year.
I would definitely agree. And that's been a long time coming. Like really, when you take a look at how the market's been consuming the inventory out there, what we call it is sale to new listing ratio. And what that means is that for the number of properties that are being listed, how many of those in the same month are actually turning into sales? And what we see right now is, I want you to kind of think in your mind that 2 out of 3, okay? Every 3 properties that go listed, 2 of them are leaving the market. As kind of a general amount, about 64%. And that is similar to where we were a couple of months ago. It just kind of ticked up 1% last month and then fell back down. Still a little bit short of where we were last year, though. And that's because there was a few more people that were concerned about bringing their property to the market. And that was part of the lack of inventory that resulted in the seller's advantage that we've seen. Now, this isn't the case among the entire group of properties. Like single family detached is having a pretty good experience. Almost 70% of them are leaving the market, whereas duplex and row houses, they're having the best experience. 8 out of 10 as far as what we are seeing coming to the market and leaving. Meanwhile, for condos, unfortunately, it's only 5 out of 10. So for every 10 that show up, only 5 are selling. So we're starting to see inventory stack on top of each other. And then you're going to see sellers starting to compete for that attention from buyers by lowering their prices is what normally happens, or accepting those lower offers. And we're seeing some wider spans on that. But normally this is accompanied by like information related to people's time on market. What's days on market doing right now?
Overall, across the board, month of July, it has increased, not by a whole lot, but it has increased, by a few days along like all properties. But really, still really good from last year. So like, for instance, last year in July, we were 49 days on market for single detached, and we're now at 33. So overall, still really good from last year, but just slight increase across the board for the month of July for all types of properties.
So when we're talking about days on market, we're normally talking about the time where a sign goes up, like that for sale sign goes up, all the way until that sold sign goes up, which means that all conditions have been removed. What's the average family's experience right now?
The average family's experience right now is, really good for sellers. Still short days, for
a month from start to finish isn't a long time to wait to sell a property. But how does that change for the other property types? Like, what are condos doing right now?
For the month of July, condos were 54 days on market. For May and June, May they were 48 and June they were 53. But for last year, condos were 63 days on market. So still doing, better than last year, but up again a little bit.
Isn't that interesting, where this year it's not very, not considered a high demand market, but even last year it was almost repellent where people were so concerned about living in high density, just given the danger of COVID, that so many people were talking about leaving high density towards low density areas, moving from downtown to the suburbs, moving from the suburbs, maybe even out to acreages. It's interesting how that stuff moves around, and it creates some pretty crazy trends. So when we take a look at the market as a whole, what's hot and what's not?
I'd say right now luxury is pretty hot.
Yeah, that stuff over 850 has been doing really well, hasn't it?
Yeah, within like the more recent years, there's been twice as many luxury homes that have sold this year.
That's incredible. So when we take a look at like years like 2018, I think that the market would normally tick along at the first half of the market. Maybe we'd get like 150 of those luxury homes, and we're calling those, as far as luxury, just for a definition goes, it's twice the average price of the market. So, based on right now, all residentials at like 400, so it would be up over 800, but over 850, we would normally see about 150 sales. How many were there in the first half of this year? I think it was over 300. Can you believe it? Over 300 properties, over 850 sells. That's really hot for the market, and that's great because it's a seller's advantage right now. As you climb up the market, as it gets more expensive, it also moves more. So when the market's down, it's way down. But when the market goes up, you're seeing some of those properties that you could have picked up under $1 million are now really stretching up to like, the 1.1, 1.2 range, which is a really wide stretch as far as luxury goes. So very interesting. What would you consider cold right now, Erida?
I'd say entry-level homes.
Oh, so taking a look at that stuff down market, like how far down market would you say with price? What do you consider entry level in the Greater Edmonton area?
I would consider condos to be entry-level.
Yeah, that stuff like under 200,000 definitely is something that we've seen have a little bit challenge finding buyers. But you know what? Less established people are having some challenges getting financing right now. They're uncertain when it comes to like their job. Some of them had to use some of their savings as they went through the challenges surrounding the pandemic. Not every job has had great coverage when it comes to somebody having to wait for a test or whatever their circumstance has been. So it's interesting to see how that's been going, and interesting managing listings that way. As far as it goes, like when you say the level of concern, when we saw our listings last year, we were offering them all the protections. They were able to ask health questions, exchange all that information. What has changed in real estate this year as far as like the level of concern? Do you guys feel as though that's changed significantly?
Yeah, it hasn't. Go ahead, Brad.
I've definitely seen, some changes. There's definitely still people out there that are taking those extra precautions, but it really is, it's based on the seller. Really, they can kind of work it to their comfort level at this point, and I feel like people definitely appreciate that flexibility, and overall, it hopefully it continues to trend this way.
And what were you going to add?
I was just going to say, at this time last year, sellers are almost requesting that we had a hazmat suit entering their home. And nowadays it's, everybody's pretty good with, still wearing masks if you have to, depending on who lives there, and using hand sanitizer at the door, not touching everything as you go through. But the market has definitely improved, and I think people feel a lot more comfortable.
I would totally agree. We're starting to see things like handshakes and hugs out there. It's nice to be able to meet your clients and have those face-to-face conversations that were challenging before. Like, it's something that's maybe not unique to us, but I don't know many people that really partake in going to other people's homes like we do, especially at the intimate level that we do. Like, honestly, as a real estate team, I think you guys have been in more master bedrooms than Viagra. It's interesting standing with other people in an ensuite. Like, who does that besides us? So when it comes to that intimate interaction with people, and also who's homeschooling, who's having to work from home right now, I don't think that there's anyone else as embedded into their community as us as agents. Is there anything that you like? So do you believe that we're on the rise? Do you believe that this fall market is going to unlock some additional action?
Oh yeah.
Any bold predictions as we go into the fall?
I think we're going to see a lot more people downsizing. You know, everybody's starting to feel a lot more comfortable, and I think people are going to want to be in a new place before the winter, winter weather sets in.
And I think dependent on the results of this election, that we may have to offer packages to relocate, right? Like I heard that Florida's fantastic if you don't like the election results. You can go maybe I think that there'd be a bunch of other places that you could consider. There's a couple of places you don't want to probably travel to right now. But anyway, I'm always curious to see how people see this and whether or not they see this as something that is going to take their mind off long-term plans like moving. But I would also agree with you, Tony. You know, when we see downsizers possibly taking action, I'm excited about that because we're not getting as many announcements that would lead to that net migration that we know it would take to be sustainable into the future with this much action causing this seller's market. So when we've been talking to downsizers for a little while. That's something that seems like a really challenging transition for so many people. And I think that they should know more that we don't walk through their house when they're ready for sale, right? Like when you guys show up, do you guys bring cameras with you? Do you bring Joel from Gravidia? You just bring him along and say, hey, listen, this is going to go super. These people are definitely going to choose me as their realtor. And then we're going to have this house on the market tomorrow.
It would be extremely rare to have anybody be completely picture ready at the time we come walk through, but we've seen it before.
Yeah, there's some people that live like that. Like, honestly, I remember listing one of our teammates' relatives, and they must live in a show home. Like, it's amazing there all the time. We could go there this afternoon and list their house. But I want more people to be comfortable with the fact that they shouldn't be ready when we get there. We're part of the team. We've seen things in real estate that would make your toes curl. So you don't have to worry about a little bit of laundry. You don't have to worry that the kids didn't pick their stuff up. We're looking to help you make that finished product. So I think that more people should know that they can ring us up. So they can definitely get a hold of our team a couple of different ways, one of which is our Fast Agent Hotline. So they can call our Fast Agent Hotline right now at 780-909-6770. Look at this real estate team. These guys, does this look like a ready position for you? This is a team that's already helped with 80 different client experiences this year. We've seen these people help people move through lockdown. You're looking at a team of specialists where what's most available in the market is an individual generalist. So make sure to connect with us on our Fast Agent Hotline. We don't want to leave you waiting for a call from someone else because we want to make sure that you have that 5-star experience that we're known for as the highest rated and reviewed real estate team in the Greater Edmonton Area on rankmyagent.com. So thank you. We really appreciate all the all-star teammates here helping out and making sure that everybody in the public remains informed. Like, do you guys know how many people you checked on during COVID? I think collectively
couple
was
thousand.
like 4,000. You know, how many people called you and said, hey, how did COVID leave you? Well, if we were your real estate team, not only did we contact you, we also came to you with resources. So if you're talking about being embedded in the community, that's one of the things that we are. We're easy to get in hold of. You can find us everywhere. Look for our signs near you. And thank you so much for joining us. We wanted to bring you the insight from July because everyone else is reading boring information. Thanks, guys. You take care.
See ya.